everyone. Today we have the eighth out of 100 coaching clients for free. The topic of this session is about college admissions. The client is not from the United States, so a big part of the conversation is me just trying to understand the admissions process. But if you're about to take a test, whether it be the SATs or anything that's related to a college test, and you're thinking about college admissions, I really want you to pay close attention to this video because you're going to take the test regardless of how you feel, right? But when you put so much stress and emphasis on performing well on that test, it's actually going to put a lot of stress in your brain, and that will make your brain freeze during a very important test of your life. So, as you're about to take a really important test, it's very important you know how to manage your mind. It's very important you know how to intentionally choose a relaxed feeling and just demonstrate what you have studied. And if you are having trouble with that, please book a session like this with me or any other coach to work through this problem, because I guarantee you your life will be better when you know how to manage stress under pressure. With that said, thank you so much for client number 8, Carlos. And this client didn't have a webcam, and so no webcam, no problem. You can get coach like this for free for YouTube. Email me at billy@julylifecoach.com or use any of the links in the descriptions below. All right, thank you so much, and I'll be back with client number 9's coaching video. So based on my how I understand it is, there's a lot of pressure for you to perform really well on this test. There's a lot of pressure for you to get into medical school. There's a lot of pressure for you to prove that you're something great.
I don't like the thing is, I don't know if it makes a difference, but it's not like medical school. It's like it's just like a university, and there's like different subjects. So instead of like studying like biology, for example, you just study medicine. It's not like a specific like school just designed for medicine.
Okay.
But I mean,
Yeah.
it's not really important. But I wanted to say, you said like I wanted to be like something great, but I'm like just like honestly, I'm just like super interested in the whole field, and that's like about it.
Yeah. And so I think, like there's a lot of people who are just interested in a topic, but then they just pursue it like a sort of a hobby, right? They just read stuff like after they search, and then they just kind of like casually consume it. But for you, there's a lot of pressure for you to go to university.
Oh yeah, I'm
There's a
getting
lot
old.
at stake here.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is it so important for you to get to university?
I'm getting really old, and all my siblings didn't pursue the academic path, and my parents, or like my dad, really put all the resources into me. Like, for example, he um what is it called if you go like see someone who helps you after school with
Tutors?
yeah, like he paid like for tutors and stuff, and always made sure he studied with me and stuff after school to make sure I get good grades, and he drove me everywhere. Like he even drove me to the test, which was like a city away. He drove me to the hotel, which makes everything like so much worse.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guilt associated with that, and there's a lot of expectations for you to perform well and go to university. But then your reality is sort of like different, right? And that's where all the like current stresses are coming from, right?
Yeah.
And even during the test, like let's say, for example, if you and I were having this conversation like 2 years ago, and then let's say I was just asking you about some of the material that's on the test, you would have no problem answering it, right? Because there's like, yeah, we're just talking about the test material. But when they put you in this room, and when they say this is the official test and this is what matters, so now your mind, it's just solving problems like you did at the library, right? It should be exactly the same activity. But the feeling is so different because the thought is, oh my God, this is like really important. There's a lot of things at stake. And if I mess this up, then it's like catastrophe, and I'm gonna be doomed for my life. And there's a lot of pressure here. And the brain doesn't like being pressured like that. So, like, the brain that I'm talking about is called the primitive brain, and it's the brain that deals with your survival, like as an animal. So, if someone or if a wild animal, right, in the primitive times, in the like jungle hunting gathering times, if I'm outside and I see a pack of wolves starting to surround me, then I get this intense freezing kind of a sensation and I feel a lot of stress, right? So your brain is effectively going through the same thing because it's just backed into a corner where it's this test or you. And so when that pressure just starts building up, it doesn't really matter how much you prepared for it, because as long as your brain is thinking that this is a survival situation, then the third test won't make the difference. The fourth test doesn't make the difference. The fifth test will be the same because the experience is created by the thought that there's a lot at stake here. And I have to do really, really well, or else I'm doomed. I'm gonna let my dad down. I'm gonna let my family down. I'm gonna be a disappointment. And so that is ultimately what's causing all of the stress, right? Do you agree with this?
Yeah, it felt like exactly how you just described it.
Yeah. So now that tells us the really, really important thing here isn't actually your performance on the test, because like like the test is just what you did and it's already done and you got a score, and there's gotta be people who did worse than you, right?
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
people
right.
who did
And
worse
there's
than me.
gotta be people who did better than you, right?
Yeah,
So from the perspective of the person who did better than you in terms of that test, your score is low. But from the perspective of the person whose score is lower than you, your score is high. But the thing is, your score didn't change, right?
so you
Your
mean like
score
from
is
the,
just your score.
oh yeah, yeah,
And the thing is, let's say somebody like guessed on a lot of questions and then they got a lot of their guesses correct. And then they somehow got a better score than you, right?
yeah,
That doesn't mean they're like necessarily smarter than you. That doesn't necessarily mean you're dumber than them. All the scores are saying is on that particular day, on that particular question bank, the number of correct answers was this. Like, that's all the test scores are saying, right?
yeah.
So, something I heard you say repeatedly is the word fail. But the thing is, like, you said you're waiting for universities to give you like a reply, right? Let's
Um,
let's say a university gets back at you and then they want to accept you. And then let's
mm-hmm.
say you enter into a university and then you're like second grade or third grade in that university. When you're at that state, where you are a medical student, would you still think of your test grade as failing?
Like honestly, I don't like. I could have gotten like 0%. I really don't care about the test. I just want to get in. Like that's all I care about.
Yeah, right? So
Yeah.
that what matters right now is like it feels like failure. It feels so bad because getting into this university is so important because there's a lot of shame for not getting in there. There's a lot of guilt for not getting in there. But then once you get in, the test doesn't really matter. Like when you're in, I don't know if this applies for Germany, but like in America, there's a concept called like SATs, right? It's a standardized test. But when you're in high school, SATs matter so much. And then, like, oh, I wish I have gotten a better grade. Or when you're in high school and I'm taking a history class and then I'm about to get a C, it feels like, oh my God, I'm doomed for life. But then the moment you get into a college, like you forget about all of that, right? So what's really important here is that like the test isn't the test is just a test, and the test is just like a measurement of correct answers versus not correct answers. But you're viewing yourself as lacking. You're viewing yourself as someone who should be ashamed. You're viewing yourself as someone to be guilty of. And that's where all this pain and that's where all this stress is coming from.